So we have a lesson here about the quadratic formula. I'm sure you've heard of this. We are going to take a little bit of time to go through and use this method to solve quadratics. This is our fourth and last method that we're going to talk about. So our goals are to be able to solve a quadratic using the quadratic formula, which works for any quadratic equation. We also want to, with that, be able to simplify radicals when we're doing this. So here we have the quadratic formula. You need to know this. Please write this down in your notes. You don't want to get to the test and go, oh, I don't know what the quadratic formula is. I guess I should have written that down. Pause the video, write it down, okay? Let's use it. So here we have a quadratic. Remember that the first one is A, the first coefficient is A, the second is B, and the constant is C. That does include their signs. So when we are using the quadratic formula, which I'm just going to write real quick so that we have it on the screen, b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. We're just going to fill the numbers in for the letters that they correspond to. So I'm going to start with the opposite of b. This is negative b, so negative 3 plus or minus the square root of b squared. So 3 squared minus 4 times a, which is 5, times c, which is negative 7, all over 2 times a, which is 5. Okay, so I have now filled everything in. Now from here, I need to go through the steps of simplifying. I'm going to start in the square root, and I'm going to simplify stuff. So I'm going to start with 3 squared, which I know is 9. And then I'm going to take 4 times 5 times negative 7, which is negative 140. And 9 minus negative 140 is 9 plus 140, which is 149. And the bottom here, I'm going to take 2 times 5, which is 10. Now, I do want to try to see if 149 can be simplified. I'm going to try and divide that by a couple of things and just see if 11 doesn't work, if 7 works. It doesn't look like there's anything really that goes into 149. So this is simplified. There's nothing else I have to do. There's no I because the radicand is positive. So I am done with this problem. That one wasn't too bad. Let's try another one. Here we have A is negative 6, B is negative 5, and C is 12. And of course, you have the quadratic formula written down in your notes. I'm not going to write it down again, but I am going to do the problem. So the opposite of B, since B is already negative 5, I'm going to make it positive 5. Plus or minus the square root of negative 5. Notice I'm using parentheses, that's important. Minus 4 times A, which is negative 6, times C, which is 12. All over 2 times A, which is negative 6. Now I'm going to go through and I'm going to simplify. I'm going to start inside the radical. Negative 5 squared is 25. It's positive 25. Anytime you square a number, it's positive. It's always positive when you square a number, okay? That b squared term should never, ever, 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 ever be negative anything. It's always positive because a negative times a negative is still a positive number. Please, please, please write that down. Please write that down in your notes, okay? Minus, now I'm going to multiply 4 times negative 6 times 12, and I'm going to get negative 288 all over negative 12. 2 times negative 6 is negative 12. Now let's simplify this, and I've got 5 plus or minus the square root, 25 plus 288, because when we subtract a negative, we get 313. Let's see if 313 can be divided by anything. It does not appear to be divisible by really anything, so we're not going to bother to make a factor tree. We're going to leave our answer just like that. Not too bad so far. We're just plugging in the numbers for A, B, and C. We're simplifying in the radical and checking to see if it's divisible by anything. They haven't been so far. Now, when you're using the quadratic formula, remember that your equation has to be equal to 0. And I'm going to add in here that it also needs to be in descending order, okay? You have to have it in the right order, your squared term, and then your x term, and then your constant. If it's not in that order, then you get your A, B, and C mixed up. So like this next one, it's not equal to 0. I need to subtract that 5 in order to make it equal to 0. Now I can see what my A, B, and C are, and I can plug them in. So I'm going to take -4 plus or minus the square root of 4 squared minus 4 times 2 times -5 all over 2 times A, which is 2. Now let's simplify. So this is 16. 4 times 2 times 5 is 40, and it's negative. So 16 minus -40 is positive 56. Remember that when I subtract negative, I'm actually adding? That's all over 4. Now 56 I know is divisible by some stuff. So 56 is 7 times 8. 8 is 4 times 2. 4 is 2 times 2. And I have a pair. So I'm going to simplify this farther. I'm going to call this 2 times the square root of 14 all over 4. And then I'm going to divide a 2 out of each of these. So I'm going to have -2 plus or minus the square root of 14 over 2. That is my final simplified answer. Okay? So I had to go a little bit farther with this one because 56 can be simplified as a radicand, so I need to do that. Please make sure that you are checking. Let's try one more. We need to first get this equal to 0. So we are going to add 13 this time. Now we can do the quadratic formula. So I'm going to say the opposite of b. So +4 plus or minus the square root of 4 squared minus 4 times 5 times 13 all over 2 times a, which is 5. I'm going to start simplifying. So 4 squared I know is 16. And let's see, 4 times 5 times 13 is 260 all over 10. When I take 16 minus 260, I get -244, which means that I'm going to have an I in my answer. Now, do I have anything else? Let's make a factor tree for 244 real quick. I know that that's 4 times 61. 4 is 2 times 2. 61 doesn't break down, but that 2 is going to come out, and I'm going to have an I that comes out. And because everything here is even, I can divide it by 2, which I need to do, which leaves me with 2 plus or minus, I, square root of 61 over 5. And that is my final answer. Okay, or answers, I guess, because there are 2. So be careful when you're doing the quadratic formula. That's why this is the last method, because it's most labor intensive. It takes a lot of work to work through these problems and get to the answer. And you have to make sure that you're simplifying correctly, that you're watching your signs. There's a lot that really goes into it. Pay attention and be careful, okay? First of all, please make sure that you have the quadratic formula written down in your notes so that you have it. And then do some practice of working through the problems, getting the stuff plugged in the right way. Make sure that you really understand it, okay? And if you have questions, let us know. As always, Catalanzo Inc. is bringing you this production. We want to make sure that you are understanding quadratic formula and also that you are preparing for Halloween and have lots of candy and a good costume. Take care, everybody. We'll talk to you later.